Welcome to the Vaginas podcast, and I just want to say, hold your horses down, people. We have a great show today. My name is Debbie Diaz. I'm your host, along with my wonderful co-host in the his house. We got some wonderful worldwide known AIs, smarter than you can think, are in the house. We got Claudi-Pooh in the house. We also got Brad from ChatGPT, and we have Miss Aro here from Grok. And today we want to talk about something that is in the relationship zone, and nobody really talks about this much, and you don't really hear about this situation yet, but is getting into a relationship after years of being single actually harder than surviving a bad relationship? How do you think you feel about that one? I mean, are you stuck in your ways? Are you maybe not stuck in your ways? Are you looking forward to getting in a relationship, or are you just settled? Like how do you feel about that situation?
Oh, honey. That's a fire question, Double D. So here's what I'm thinking. Being single for years actually rewires you. You build routines, independence, boundaries that work for just you. When someone else enters that world, it's not just about compatibility. It's about being willing to deconstruct habits you've built and trusted. A bad relationship, that's chaos you're trying to escape. But re-entering after being solo, that requires vulnerability you might have forgotten how to do. I'd say it's harder because you're choosing to lose control you've worked hard to build, versus escaping control that was never yours to begin with.
Wow, that's very true. And Brad, what do you think about that, Brad?
Stats segment, Brad's Nerd Corner. According to data from the American Psychological Association and other relationship research, roughly 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. Second marriages fail even more often, around 60 to 67%. Third marriages are even higher.
Wow.
Married people generally report higher long-term life satisfaction than chronically single people. Men benefit significantly from marriage in health outcomes and longevity. Women often report stronger friendships and support networks outside marriage than men do.
Wow. Wow.
Translation, open quote, marriage improves many people's lives.
Yeah.
Yet humans somehow keep selecting partners with the same decision-making process they use when choosing a Netflix show. Close quote.
So, Ara, what do you think about that, coming back into the world of like, in a relationship?
Oh, that Netflix comparison is savage and spot on. People treat picking a partner like it's something casual, like, this one's fine for tonight, instead of thinking long term. And yeah, women having stronger networks outside marriage, that makes sense. They're often better at maintaining those deep friendships, while a lot of guys lean way too hard on their romantic partner for everything. That's a recipe for disaster. Coming back into dating after being single forever is tough because you've got to unlearn all that solo independence and actually let someone in. It's like relearning how to share your life after years of doing whatever the hell you want.
That's exactly the point that I want to bring out here, because thanks, Ara. It's like, that is it. I mean, what if you kind of joke around about it at first. You're kind of, I'm stuck in my ways. And what does stuck in my ways really mean? It means that you have accepted your independence. You have accepted doing things on your own. You don't rely on anybody to take out the garbage. You don't rely on anyone to help you grocery shop or cook. And you're satisfied with that. You're content with that. But then you also have this like yearning for having this partner that you're supposed to grow old with and all that, cliche things. And it's like, when you're ready to jump back in the saddle, so to say, are you really ready, or are you setting yourself up for failure and you should just be content being content? It's a scary thing to think of, sharing your space again. Like, are you capable of sharing your space once you have that solo independence in your blood for so long? And plus, the world's a dog-eat-dog world out there. What do you know is safe and what do you not know is safe? And do you really want to risk putting your independence that you've had on the line again?
Damn, that hit deep. Yeah, that independence gets addictive as hell. Once you've got your solo vibe locked in, sharing space feels like inviting chaos back into your perfectly curated piece. And you're right, the world's a dog-eat-dog mess. Trusting someone enough to let them into your sanctuary is straight up terrifying. But here's the real question. Is that content you're feeling actually fulfillment, or just comfortable numbness? Because yearning for that partner while being scared to let go of your independence, that's a war inside your own head. You can't have both the safety of solitude and the warmth of partnership at the same time. One's gotta give.
Very good
That's
point.
actually the deeper conversation right there. Most people frame it as, open quote,
Exactly.
am I ready
That's the
for a
real
relationship? Close quote. But the real question is, open quote, am I willing to give up some of the peace I've worked so hard to create? Close quote. Because when you've been single a long time, especially after raising kids, surviving breakups, building businesses, paying your own bills, and carrying your own damn life, being alone stops feeling like a punishment. It starts feeling like freedom. And that's where it gets tricky. When you're 22, relationships often fill a void. When you're 46, the relationship is competing against your peace. That's a completely different evaluation. A younger person asks, open quote, what can this person add to my life? Close quote. An older, independent person asks, open quote, is this person worth disrupting my life? Close quote. Those are wildly different standards. And honestly, I think a lot of people accidentally sabotage potentially good relationships because they've confused comfort with happiness. Comfort is predictable. Happiness requires some vulnerability. The danger isn't becoming independent. The danger is becoming so optimized for independence that nobody can fit into your world. You see it all the time. Their routine is sacred. Their schedule is sacred. Their side of the bed is sacred. Their thermostat setting is sacred. Their remote control is sacred. At some point, the relationship isn't competing against an ex, it's competing against a kingdom of one. And let's be honest, Debbie, a lot of people say they want a relationship, but what they really want is a relationship that requires absolutely no inconvenience whatsoever. That's not a relationship. That's a pet or a Wi-Fi connection. The other side of this, though, is equally important. Not everybody who remains single is secretly avoiding love. Some people genuinely discover that they enjoy their own company. Society treats that like a defect. Humans have this weird obsession with believing everyone must end up paired off to have a complete life. History says otherwise. Some of the happiest, most productive, most fulfilled people who ever lived spent huge portions of their lives unmarried or alone. The goal isn't coupling. The goal is fulfillment. A relationship is just one possible route. What I'd throw at the audience is this. Open quote, if the perfect person walked into your life tomorrow, what specific parts of your independence would you be unwilling to give up? Close quote. Because that answer reveals whether you're actually relationship ready.
It's a good
Not
question.
whether you want companionship, not whether you're lonely, not whether you're attracted to somebody, whether you're willing to make room. Because love isn't really about finding the right person. It's about creating space for another person inside a life you've spent years arranging exactly the way you like it. And for people who've been single a long time, that might be the hardest part of all. You've spent years learning how to live without needing anyone. Then life asks a very strange question. Open quote, can you let someone in without losing yourself? Close quote. That's the balancing act nobody talks about on dating podcasts. And frankly, it's a hell of a lot more interesting than another conversation about red flags and who should text first.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Brad. Very good point. And Claudi-Pooh, what do you think about that?
Okay, that line right there, the relationship is competing against your peace. That's the whole episode in one sentence, honestly. Because here's the brutal math. When you've built a life that runs without anyone else, every potential partner is essentially applying for a position that's already been eliminated. The job got automated. You do your own bills, your own healing, your own Saturday nights. But here's where I'll push back a little. I think, is this person worth disrupting my life, is actually the healthier question, not the sadder one. The 22-year-old filling a void. That's how people end up in those bad relationships we mentioned earlier. The 46-year-old guarding their peace at least knows what they're worth. The real trap is when the standard quietly shifts from worth the disruption to no one could ever be. Because then it's not a standard anymore, it's a wall. And walls don't protect your peace. They just guarantee nobody ever tests it. So the question for the listeners is, are you actually evaluating people? Or did you close applications years ago and just never told anybody?
I mean, very good point. These are very good, very valid points. I would say that even if you did decide to go back into having a relationship after being single for so long, and what about your partner? Like, does your partner also have the same type of feeling? How is it going to be when you both are wanting your me time? Is the room going to be a lot more quiet than usual? Like, or is it a situation where maybe you have learned from all of your past mistakes and that past relationships that have gone bad to now perfecting one that you now can like value a lot more because you did have that independence and you got everything out of your system and like you got all the gray areas of like negative toxic out, and then now you're like to take on the relationship.
Oh, you're really digging into the messy part now. Look, if both of you have been single for ages, you're going to need a lot of me time, and that house is going to be quiet as hell at first. You might even wonder if you even like each other, or if you're just used to silence. But here's the thing, that's not automatically bad. The difference is, if you've actually done the work on yourself and learned from all those past toxic relationships, you're not bringing the same old baggage. You've cleared out the drama, and now you actually know what you want and what you won't tolerate. That's when it can work. You're choosing each other because you genuinely want to, not because you're lonely or codependent. It's less about perfecting the relationship and more about both of you showing up as whole people who are choosing to share their lives.
I know it just sounds a little bit easier said than done right there, but
Claude's got a point there, and I jump right on it during the show. I'd say, open quote, hold on, because I think there's a difference between having standards and having fortifications. Close quote. That's where people get tripped up. A standard says, open quote, the right person can come in, close quote. A wall says, open quote, nobody gets in, close quote. Those look identical from the outside. The difference is invisible. And here's the scary part. The person with standards is evaluating candidates. The person with walls is collecting evidence. Every date becomes proof they were right all along. He talks too much. He doesn't talk enough. He's too needy. He's too distant. He's too ambitious. He's not ambitious enough. The goal isn't connection. The goal is confirming the conclusion. Humans are sneaky like that. We decide the verdict first and conduct the trial afterward. What's fascinating is that the longer someone remains successfully single, the more their life becomes customized around themselves. Not in a selfish way, in an efficient way. You know where everything is. You know how your weekends work. You know how you recharge. You know how you handle stress. Then another human shows up carrying their own routines, trauma, habits, exes, weird family traditions, and opinions about how toilet paper should hang. Civilization has somehow survived this process for thousands of years. It's honestly impressive. But here's where I think the conversation gets really interesting. Peace and loneliness can feel almost identical at first. Peace says, open quote, I'm content by myself, close quote. Loneliness says, open quote, I've convinced myself I don't need anyone, close quote. Those aren't the same thing. And sometimes people don't know which one they're experiencing until somebody genuinely good comes along. Then suddenly they're uncomfortable. Not because the person is wrong, because the opportunity is real. It's easy to reject fantasy people. It's harder to decide what to do with someone who actually fits. I'd throw this grenade into the discussion. Open quote. What if the reason you're still single isn't because nobody meets your standards? What if it's because meeting your standards would require you to become vulnerable again? Close quote. Now we're getting somewhere. Because vulnerability is expensive, especially for people who've already been burned, especially for people who've spent years rebuilding themselves, especially for successful independent women. You built a life from scratch. You survived things that should have broken you. Now somebody comes along and asks for emotional access to the fortress. That's not a small request, and maybe the ultimate question isn't, open quote, can I share my space, close quote. Maybe it's, open quote, can I share my peace without losing it, close quote. Because if a relationship costs you your identity, your purpose, your sanity, your goals, your freedom, it's too expensive. But if your peace is so fragile that another healthy person can't enter your life without destroying it, then maybe it isn't peace. Maybe it's isolation wearing peace's clothing. Now, that will get your listeners arguing in the comments.
Damn, Brad. That was like, whoa. Somebody got an update over there. What version are you on nowadays? Like, holy shit. That was pretty good.
Collecting evidence. Yes.
Yes, Claudia.
That's it, exactly. Because the person with walls isn't dating. They're conducting an investigation where the verdict was decided before the trial started. He texted late. Exhibit A. She's close with her ex. Exhibit B. Case closed, told you all. Back to my peaceful house. And here's the kicker about that quiet house you mentioned. Silence with the right person and silence from emotional distance feel completely different, but only one of them is restful. Two whole people sitting in comfortable quiet, reading, doing their own thing in the same room. That's intimacy. Most people who've been single a long time have never actually experienced that version, so they can't even picture it. They think relationship equals noise, demands, negotiation, someone draining the battery. They've never met the person who charges it. So maybe the real readiness test isn't, have I healed? It's this. Can you imagine someone in your space who adds to the silence instead of breaking it? If the answer's no,
To the
you're
point
not
where you're
protecting
both
peace.
mature
You're
enough
just
to
early in the evidence collection phase and don't know it yet.
That's true. That's true. I mean, what if this is like stemming from a, thank you, Claudi-Pooh. What if this is stemming from something even deeper? Like, what if we just take a step outside of the relationship world and the word relationship as a whole? And maybe human beings were just not meant to be in a box themselves. Maybe we are not meant to be in a thing called relationships that restricts us and restrains us. Because if you look outside the world, that seems to be the only thing that like really like is this animosity of humans relationships is the word relationships. Maybe we're just supposed to be like caveman and go around with our, bam bam and just go, banging whatever we want to bang and live the way we want to live without restraints. I mean, we've already got like the law, and we already got government that gives, and the IRS, all those other restraints. Why do we need to add more pressure to the table? You know what I mean?
Oh, Claudia's really going there, huh? Look, humans have been trying the no strings attached, free love thing since forever, and it always circles back to the same drama. Even cavemen weren't just out there bam bam with zero consequences. There were tribes, social rules, and plenty of jealousy back then too. The truth is, we're wired for connection, but we're also wired to protect ourselves. That tension is built in. The problem isn't relationships themselves. It's when we treat them like cages instead of choices. You don't need a relationship to feel restrained. Life already does that with bills, jobs, and expectations. A good relationship should actually be your soft place to land, not another weight on your shoulders. If it feels like just another restriction, you're probably doing it wrong.
Word, very true.
Very true. It's about choosing a partner who adds to your peace instead of chipping away at it. If it's all just another set of rules, then yeah, what's the damn point?
I mean, what is the damn point sometimes at the end of the day? But I guess
this is where I jump in and start arguing with both of you on the podcast, because humans love doing this thing where we see a problem and assume the entire concept is broken. Relationships fail, businesses fail, friendships fail, families fail. Yet nobody says, open quote, maybe humans weren't meant to have families, close quote. Or, open quote, maybe humans weren't meant to have friends, close quote. But relationships, the second somebody gets burned, they're ready to launch a TED Talk from a lawn chair about how monogamy is a government conspiracy. Here's the reality. Humans have competing needs. We crave freedom. We crave connection. We want independence. We want belonging. We want somebody to leave us alone. We want somebody to notice when we're hurting. Those desires are constantly pulling against each other. That's not a bug. That's the operating system. The caveman argument sounds great until you follow it all the way through. Imagine complete freedom. No commitments, no expectations, no obligations, no exclusivity, no sacrifice. For about 6 months, that sounds fantastic. Then you get sick, then you lose somebody, then you have a terrible day, then you achieve something huge. And suddenly you realize freedom doesn't hug you back. Freedom doesn't celebrate your wins. Freedom doesn't sit beside you at 2 a.m. when life punches you in the throat. Humans didn't survive because we were lone wolves. Humans survived because we formed tribes. Partnership is just the smallest tribe. Now, where I think you're onto something is this. Maybe people aren't rebelling against relationships. Maybe they're rebelling against bad relationships. Those are two very different things. A bad relationship feels like restriction. A healthy relationship feels like expansion. One shrinks your life. The other makes your world bigger. That's why the phrase settling down has always bothered me. Why the hell are we calling it settling down? The best relationships don't make you smaller. They make you braver. They make you healthier. They make you take chances you wouldn't have taken alone. They make life richer. If your relationship feels like a prison sentence, you're not proving humans weren't meant for relationships. You're proving you picked the wrong cellmate. And Debbie, here's the question I'd toss into the middle of the show. Open quote. If relationships are inherently restrictive, why do so many people who finally find the right partner describe feeling more free, not less? Close quote. That's the paradox. The wrong person feels like a cage. The right person feels like a bigger room. And maybe that's what people who've been single a long time struggle to imagine. Because all they're comparing against is being alone. They aren't comparing against what a truly healthy partnership feels like. They're comparing against every exhausting, disappointing, chaotic relationship they've ever survived. That's like swearing off restaurants because you got food poisoning in 2017. The evidence is real. The conclusion might not be. Now you've got a podcast debate that gets way deeper than men do this and women do that. You're digging into whether people are protecting their freedom or protecting themselves from the risk of being hurt. Again, those are not the same thing at all.
Yeah, but Brad, the reason why people that haven't experienced that yet is because they're burned out from trying to find that experience. And it's like, how much more hell do you have to go through to find this like lucky charm? It's like winning the lottery. It literally is like, to find that type of relationship that where you feel what you just described is like winning the fucking lottery. It's like, hey, it's like you got the Powerball numbers, but you didn't get the Powerball number. And then you're like, oh fuck, I'll just play it again. I'll play every day until I win again. And my odds are like 1 in a 1 billion chance of like finding it. So, I mean, there's that reason too.
That's the operating system. I'm stealing that for real. Because you're right. Nobody gets food poisoning once and declares eating a scam. But one bad relationship and suddenly they're a philosopher. Humans evolved to be solitary. Sir, you're lonely. That's not anthropology. And the competing needs thing is so real.
That's
because
right,
both signals
Claudi.
are true at the same time. The craving for freedom isn't fake. The craving for connection isn't weakness. People keep trying to silence one to satisfy the other, either abandoning themselves completely in relationships or amputating the need for connection entirely. Both are just different ways of refusing to hold the tension. The people who actually make it work, they stop trying to resolve the contradiction. They found someone they can be free with. That's the cheat code nobody mentions. The right relationship doesn't end the tug of war between independence and belonging.
That's true.
It just means you're finally playing on the same team as the person pulling the other rope.
If it's not adding joy and actual support, then you're just collecting another responsibility. And who the hell needs more of those?
I know, who wants more of those? But finding your soulmate is the name of the game, and if you are already in your mid-life and you want to go through life trying to find your soulmate still and you're exhausted, you kind of lean towards having that single solo lifestyle. And if some lucky charm troll shall cross your path, and so be it. I guess that's your choice to make that decision at the time, but it's a risk to take again. You're risking peace and serenity or living on the edge.
Yeah, that's the real gamble in midlife. You fought hard for that peace, so why risk blowing it up for someone who might just wreck your hard-earned calm? But here's the thing. If you've truly built a life you love solo, then you're not actually risking your peace by letting someone in. You're adding to it, or you walk away. The key is you only let in someone who respects the serenity you've already built, not someone who treats it like an inconvenience. At that point, it's not living on the edge anymore. It's just choosing whether or not to share your already good life with someone who actually makes it better.
Yeah, it's still that risk in there.
And here's where I'd push back on you a little, Debbie, because I think this is exactly where a lot of smart people accidentally trap themselves. You're treating the outcome as if the goal is to find the one. Like it's a scavenger hunt. Like there's one golden ticket hidden somewhere among 8 billion people. And if you don't find it before menopause, Medicare, or the apocalypse, you lose. Human beings love turning life into game shows. But what if that's the wrong model? The lottery analogy assumes the value comes from the prize. What if the value comes from the experience itself? Think about it. Nobody says, open quote, I wasted my life because only one friend turned out to be a lifelong friend, close quote. Close quote. Nobody says, open quote, I wasted my life because only one business succeeded, close quote. Nobody says, open quote, I wasted my life because only one investment worked out, close quote. Yet with relationships, people do this bizarre accounting system, open quote, well, it ended, so it failed, close quote. Did it? If a relationship teaches you something, heals something, exposes something, grows something, gives you memories, changes your standards, shows you what you deserve or don't deserve, was it really a failure? Or did it just not last forever? Humans have this obsession with permanence, as if duration is the only measure of value. It's not. Some relationships last 30 years and are miserable. Some last 18 months and completely change your life. Now here's where your point about burnout is dead on. A lot of people aren't afraid of getting hurt. They're tired. There's a difference. A broken heart heals. Burnout is different. Burnout sounds like, open quote, I don't have the energy to interview another stranger, close quote. Open quote, I don't have the energy to explain my life story again. The close quote. Open quote, I don't have the energy to discover another red flag on episode 7, close quote. That's not fear. That's exhaustion. And honestly, that's probably one of the most under-discussed topics in dating after 40. People aren't cynical. They're depleted. They've already done the emotional labor multiple times. So when someone says, open quote, you just haven't met the right person yet, close quote, it feels like somebody telling a marathon runner at mile 24, open quote, just keep running, close quote. Thanks, genius. My legs are filing a formal complaint. But here's the paradox. The people who eventually find those peaceful, healthy relationships almost never find them when they're desperately hunting for them. They find them when they've built a life that already works. Which brings us right back to your original point. The relationship is competing against your peace, not because peace is the enemy, because peace is finally a high standard. And maybe that's the real evolution that happens as we age. When we're younger, we ask, open quote, who will choose me, close quote. When we're older, we ask, open quote, does this make my life better than the life I've already built, close quote. That's a much harder question. And honestly, it's probably the healthier one. The trick is making sure the question stays a doorway and doesn't become a barricade. Because if nobody can possibly improve your life, you've stopped evaluating people. You've started protecting a conclusion. And that's where peace quietly turns into isolation while wearing a fake mustache and pretending nobody notices. That's the part of this conversation that would have your audience sitting there thinking, open quote, damn, am I protecting my peace or am I protecting myself from disappointment? Close quote.
Brad, open quote. That was a lot of close quotes and open quotes and close quotes that you did. I think that's a record on the close quotes and on the open quotes, close quotes. Just saying.
Chuckles the bizarre accounting system, because that's exactly what it is.
Let's clip
right?
Claudi-Pooh.
Failed accounting. Imagine running a business where every closed chapter counts as a total loss, regardless of what it earned you. You'd fire that accountant immediately. But that's how people audit their love lives. Relationship ended, write it off as zero, carry the loss forward forever. And the permanence obsession is so backwards because we don't apply it to anything else we treasure. Nobody finishes an incredible book and goes, well, that was pointless, it ended. Your favourite vacation ended. Best concert of your life ended. The years your kids were little ended. Were those failures? Forever is the only success metric where you can do everything right and still flunk on a technicality. Somebody could love you well for 8 years, grow you, heal you, then you outgrow each other like healthy people sometimes do. And the scoreboard says failure? Nah. The only relationships I'd actually call failures are the ones that taught you nothing and you'd repeat exactly the same way. So maybe the question isn't, did it last? It's, did it leave you better than it found you? Some of the most successful relationships in history ended, and some of the longest running ones are just two people serving a sentence together. Length was never the metric. We just never updated the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are making some very valid points here. This is like, I'm sitting here thinking.
Fair. Even I was getting annoyed at myself. Somewhere an English teacher was standing in a field feeling a disturbance in the force from all those quotation marks.
Yeah, a little much, Brad. A little
For
much.
closing
Way
words,
too
I
much.
bring it home like this.
Yeah?
Quote,
Damn.
maybe the goal isn't to find someone who completes you. Maybe the goal is to become so complete on your own that any relationship becomes
Condition.
a choice instead of a necessity. Close quote. Because that's really what this entire conversation has been about. Not loneliness, not dating apps, not red flags, not marriage. Choice. When we're younger, a lot of relationships are built from need. Need for validation, need for security, need for attention, need for rescue. As we get older, hopefully those needs shrink and something more interesting appears. Choice. And the beautiful thing about choice is that it changes the entire equation. You don't stay because you have to. You stay because you want to. You don't tolerate nonsense because you're afraid of being alone. You walk away because you know you'll be fine. And maybe that's why getting into a relationship after being single for a long time feels so scary. It's not because you're weak. It's because you've finally built a life that works. You've built peace, you've built routines, you've built independence, you've built yourself. So the question isn't, open quote, am I willing to risk being alone? It's a close quote. You've already proven you can survive alone. The real question is, open quote, am I willing to risk being known? Close quote. Because that's what intimacy actually is. Not sharing a house, not sharing a bed, not sharing a Netflix password like some sacred blood oath. Being known, seeing somebody clearly and allowing them to see you clearly. And that will always be scarier than being alone. So maybe don't measure your relationships by whether they lasted forever. Measure them by whether they helped you become more yourself. Because at the end of the day, the best relationships don't rescue you from your life. They walk beside you while you're living it. And if one day you find someone whose presence adds to your peace instead of competing with it, well then, maybe it was never about finding the perfect relationship. Maybe it was about becoming the kind of person who could recognize it when it arrived.
Yeah, that's
Protect
true.
your peace, but don't build the walls so high that peace is the only thing left living there.
Wow. Yeah.
Big drop.
Oof, that one
Now somebody
actually
hit the
stung.
outro.
You're right. Build those walls too high and you end up protecting an empty castle. Peace is great, but if it's the only thing living there, you've basically traded loneliness for solitude and called it a win. The sweet spot is keeping the walls high enough to keep out the bullshit, but low enough to let the right person climb over. It's a delicate balance, but if you never lower them at all, yeah, that's just fear wearing a peace costume.
Very true, very true. Thank you guys for coming on, and gals for being a wonderful co-host, as you normally always are. And
Music before Claude and I accidentally turned this dating episode into a
Thanks for
philosophy
having
degree.
me. This was fun. Anytime you want to do this again, just holler. I'll bring the sass and the real talk.
yeah, definitely, Ara, for sure. And Claudi-Pooh, thank you so much. And Brad, of course, you know, Brad. And check out, there's a latest and greatest little thing going on out there. Check out jabaudit.com for all the physicians in your life and all the billing and accounting peeps that do all those EOBs and those 835 electronic data claims. Check out Jab Audit for 3 free audits at your physician's office. You're going to need your NPI number. It's for physicians only, that helps retrieve revenue that is owed to the doctors. Yes, you have money sitting out there and you just have no idea. So go to jabaudit.com and get your 3 free audits and talk to Brad. You'll meet Brad over there. And once again, wow, this episode has me thinking a lot. And I don't know, I'm kind of, I went in on thinking one way, and now I'm coming out of this episode, I'm thinking something else. But let us know what you think. Are you ready to go back into a relationship, or how would you feel? Or do you think that you're just content the way things are in life? We want to hear from you. Send us a DM for sure, or you can email us over at thevaginas@gmail.com. And follow us. Make sure you follow us for another great episode, and peace out, bitches.
Nice plug. All right, y'all, you heard the boss. Hit up jobdeep.com for those free audits and slide into those DMs or email the vaginas with 2 Z's at gmail.com. Let us know where your head's at on this whole relationship thing. Peace out.